Alright, so what's poppin' peons? Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, what's poppin'? If you're not, what's up? So today you guys, I kinda wanna talk about another serious topic. I know you're like, damn bitch, all these serious ass topics, like we gonna go back to the story times. We're gonna get back to those soon. But I really do feel like it's my fucking page. I can do what the fuck I want to do. And quite frankly, sometimes I want to talk about a story time. Sometimes I want to talk about self love. That's why it's called Dria's Diary, because that's what a diary is, a plethora of things. You don't just have one emotion in a diary. And this is one of those deep shit. So if you don't, So, I want to talk about therapy. Yeah. That is today's topic of conversation, and we're going to talk about expectation versus reality, because I think a lot of y'all, I know a lot of y'all have either never gone to therapy, or if you have gone to therapy, you didn't stay long enough till it actually worked. And if you did stay too long or you couldn't leave, somebody either exploited you or used you or did something foul. Because that can happen in the world. People do good shit and bad shit outside of therapy. People do good shit, bad shit as partners, friends, whatever it is. So don't say, oh, she just want to go to therapy. There's good things and bad things that happen from not having sex and having sex. There's good things and bad things that happen from waking up on time, being lazy, being a procrastinator. There's good and bad in all of those things. So before you say, oh well, this is why you don't, there's a moral compass in everything. So going to therapy, I know a lot of y'all probably have never gone to therapy, and if you have and it did not work, you have a lot of ill feelings and intentions to it. So today's episode on Sunshine Bakery, this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to keep it under the hour because woo chalet, it's getting heavy. I've been recording for like the last 5-6 hours, y'all. Oh god, people think that being a content creator is the easiest thing in the world. It is not, okay? And then I haven't even edited anything yet, so I'm like, it was getting heavy. Okay, so welcome back to Sunshine's Bakery. So we're gonna get baked, and while we get baked, I have my snacks, I have my water. So if you're new here for the first time for Sunshine's Bakery, I basically get baked. I talk about a topic, we talk our shit in the comments, we can go back and forth, and I'm trying to get y'all my comments and out of my fucking DMs, my comments. Let the algorithm know that y'all fuck with me, okay? Please share it or some shit. Like, if you fuck with it, like, I know, like, sometimes you really be enjoying some shit, because sometimes I be enjoying shit and I be forgetting to like and comment too, but then they be like and comment. So please, if you enjoy it, like and comment. If you don't like it, like and say something. God, look, I respond to comments. Well, now I respond to comments, but it's hard to respond to comments sometimes, but I be responding to comments. So today's Sunshine Bakery, like I said, we get baked, we talk. So we talk together. So we're gonna do 2 pulls together because this is gonna be a heavy one, a deep one, and I quite frankly think that if it's done properly, therapy, that it can work for the person. Okay? So we're gonna take a talk together. It's gonna be a good conversation. I can say that right now. But it's off of that. A great conversation. This will do it to you every time. And one for the conversation starter. One more dope. For the conversation to the newbies, the oldies, for people who just returning back, baby, I ain't mad at you. I get it. I say some fuck shit sometimes too. So therapy. Let's get into it. All right. So when it comes down to therapy, I think a lot of people think like you're gonna go to therapy and then like a week or two or like a month or so that it just stops, right? People are like, I don't see how people are in therapy for years. If they worked, it would be out of it by now. And I'm just like, change is the only thing that is constant in life, okay? Like, you're constantly changing. You get older by the day. You can either lose weight, gain weight. You can decide today you're going to stop smoking. I have not decided that yet. You might say today I want kids. Tomorrow you might want a few. You know, all things come into play. Yeah, I like my snacks. And yeah, I like my snack bag, by the way. I take this shit to the zoo with me. Like, no, I have never taken this bad boy outside my room because she's precious and a baby doll to me. Okay? Thank you. But this is my snack bag. And I have another snack bag, but I'm not getting up to get it. That was a quick side note. But no, the expectations of therapy that I think most people get fucked up at is where they think that it's supposed to just change it overnight. Nothing just happens overnight. Like, nobody just woke up and was like, this feeling right here, I feel a lot better. All those years of masking and doing things, and sometimes you find out that you have shit that you don't quite frankly want to admit. When I went to therapy, I didn't know what to expect. I quite frankly didn't have any expectations. I was just like, I'm going to therapy to see if this shit works. Like, honestly, like that was like my whole driving motivation. I was like, I'm sad as fuck. I'm not happy. I don't know what I'm doing, and my friends can't help me. I'm being a terrible friend. I'm a terrible girlfriend. Like, shit's not working out for me. Maybe I should go to therapy. like that was the moment that like genuinely pushed me into therapy. And I think that moment happened at like 21. All right. I was like, yeah. At 18, I knew something needed to change. At 21, I was like, yeah, we need to go to therapy for somebody to unpack this shit. Started going to therapy. I had a spiritual advisor, like a counselor and shit like that. I was being totally misguided as mind you, I'm not Christian. And I had a Christian therapist, meaning your therapist does not have to be quick. Let me always say this real quick. Going to a licensed therapist is nice. Going to a specialized therapist is even better. Getting your ducats up to do so is so. If you do not have that and you have a spiritual advisor, someone you go to for spiritual advice that gives out real advice, can actually give you shit, that can almost count as therapy, because there's a spiritual, like in spiritual practices, you have people that they have like these little soul sessions and shit like that, and we call it, some people call it other shit. I used to call them soul sessions, but I call them soul sessions because that's what I like them, but I know some people call them other shits. But yeah, that can count as a form of therapy if you cannot afford it. They have free therapy where you can text a number. Baby, you can get into therapy so many ways. You just go look into it. That is the side note. That is the sidebar. That is all. So, boo. I remember like I had a spiritual advisor who I would go to, and I stopped going to that church, but I never stopped talking to the man. And we would talk about not like no romantic shit. So like, get it out your mind, like, oh, she probably wanted the pastor. No, I was talking to this man for spiritual advice and guidance on what to do in life and how to move forward. Okay, boom. I was getting shitty advice, okay? It was very toxic, okay? It was giving misogynistic, as a woman you should do this, as a woman you should do that. That was not working out for me. And then I actually, in 2019, I was 23. Actually, after I had Baker acted myself because my uncle tried to unalive me, February 10th to be exact. Yeah, on my mom's birthday, bitch. He tried to unalive me, and I Baker acted myself, and that's the first time I ever Baker acted myself. After I got Baker acted, I couldn't go back to work, so I was forced into therapy, right? Because they wanted to make sure that I was cleared to work and shit like that. So when I say them motherfuckers would not let me go back to motherfucking work, them motherfuckers was paying me and I had free therapy on their ass. Okay, my paycheck was cut, but let's just say, shorty, I was in therapy. Okay, I had to go see a therapist. Okay, and I went through about 4 therapists. Okay, I had to vet them out. Okay, and my therapist ended up being a black man. My final therapist was a black man. The one I stuck with. That's how I got back to work. Child. So when I was taking the therapy, I'm not saying it like, oh, just lightly just get into therapy. Like, it's gonna be easy, because I'm gonna say right now, some therapists are specialists in certain areas and they charge you an arm and a leg. They charge you an arm and a leg, but it is worth it. My specialist was a black man, and he specialized in people of color. He did not deal with white people. And because he was a black man, he did not deal with white people, because white people tend to, I'm not going to say that on camera, but basically, if you go to a specialist, they specialize in certain things. So it may be like, their specialty may be like only white people, only black people. It's some therapists who only see white people. And my first therapist, the one that Amazon had gave me, was a racist white man, and he said that he wanted to misdiagnose me, so he was not going to work with me anymore, because his prejudice against him would not allow him to do his job properly. So then I had to find another therapist, and I found a white woman, right? And she just decided that she didn't want to work with me one day, and she was like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable working with you. And I was like, why? She was like, because I'm kind of gonna tell you, because she was Christian. And that was it. She was Christian, and I told her that I didn't believe in Christianity, and how that really like affected me, because I think we were talking about something about like my family and some shit like that, and I was like, how I was afraid to like whatever, we were talking about some shit, and she was like, oh well, I don't really feel comfortable working with you anymore, because I really am like really big in this. So she gave me somebody else. Yeah, that didn't work out. I didn't like her style. She was too she was too optimistic for me. Like, she didn't give real results that I had gotten previously before. And I know you're like, what results did you get from the like previous one? The first one said he wanted to misdiagnose you. Yeah. But the second one, I actually started making progress. And we start making progress because it is a whole unmasking process that you do. Like, you just don't just hop into some therapist. You're like, all right, doc, now here's my problem. This is why I came here. You know what I'm saying? I got dumped by my other one, so here I am. You feel me? Here I is, doc. Like, nah, you just don't go in there like that. So it took some time. And before she realized I wasn't Christian and she had a problem with me, she was actually giving me like really good things, and some of them I did, but some of them I didn't do, because she was like, I think you should pray about it, you know, and find your real religious base and stuff. Like, yeah, the whole religious base shit, I really didn't get into that. I explored like so many religions. Actually, yes, I did. That's how I ended up in spirituality. Because I actually did take her advice. She was like, you should get like a point of faith or some shit like that. Like, what you call it? And then the other one, I just didn't like her vibe. It was just very much so off. So the third one, I couldn't get back to Amazon. Amazon stopped paying me, so I got another job. And I had paid for insurance, but it didn't cover my therapy, so I had to still work. And I was paying $150 a session. And I think I seen him like at least 2 to 4 times a month, right? Before I even got back to Amazon. It had been like it was almost a year that I was away from Amazon. But I really didn't mind like going back to Amazon. Like, that was like in the back of my mind. I was just like, damn, I can't wait to go to therapy today. Oh. I was like, damn, I can't wait to go to therapy today. And I know that sounds crazy. Like, damn, I can't wait to spend $150. Like, this bitch is excited to spend $150. No. I was never happy to spend that money. I don't care what nobody says. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I went to therapy, bitch. I'm so glad I went to therapy, but y'all just was... Child. Anyways, but I ended up with a black therapist, and what made me stop going to him was he did some shit that was very unprofessional of him. I could have got his license took, and he got mad at me one day in therapy because I had, like, we were joking about some shit, right? And then he goes, can I try something? And I was like, what are you trying to try, right? And then he, like, kind of went off the recording line where he's supposed to be at. He was like, oh, just call me because this isn't working. And I was like, okay, whatever. And he said some off the wall ass shit to me off that call. And because it wasn't recorded, I couldn't fucking report it. But before that, he was actually doing his job extremely well. And I know you're like, how do you know? Because I got me another therapist after that. And she confirmed that everything that he was teaching up to that point before he did the whole private phone call thing, it was legit, okay? So, yeah. And I stopped going to her, but that's for another reason, because I just couldn't afford her. Like, shorty just got too expensive. Like, when I say, I think she got some, I don't know what type of clientele she got, but her price went from boom to boom. I said, bitch, I'm already paying out for, bitch, if you think for the matter, child, thank you. I will use the coping mechanisms, though. Thank you, poo-poo roots. But no, I actually, like, therapy is not this, oh my gosh, we're just gonna be easy going. And I can talk about it now because I've actually been in therapy. I really hate that when people who've never gone to therapy or even thought about seeking out therapy or even knowing what therapy is like or practicing self-love or boundaries feels like. When people say therapy, I say, this is why I don't go to therapy now. You don't go to therapy because you don't want to go to therapy. You're looking for any reason to justify you not wanting to go to therapy. Because, like I said, it doesn't have to technically be a licensed technician in the field. But if they match up with the same qualifications as a therapist, like some spiritual advisors do, because that's why they call them relationship coaches and shit like that. That is I don't want to say relationship coaches, certified people. Fuck. Okay. Cause I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't think that y'all gonna process what I'm trying to say properly if I don't give it to y'all in detail. And I don't really want to go into detail. A relationship coach is not a therapist. Okay? But if you go to certain people who specialize in areas like, it's some people who specialize in sex. Right? They specialize in sex and sex therapy. That is a sex therapist. That's where you get a specialist from, aka therapist. Boom. So it is. So yeah, you just go to somebody who's fucking either licensed and knows exactly what they're doing in that way, and that's why they have specializations. And some things cost more than others. Okay. I think I met a sex therapist who charges $30 an hour. And I was like, that bitch must have a lot of clients. Gots to be. And because I actually did one of them, and I was like, this bitch is good. And the bitch is certified, bitch. Own shit. I was like, okay. So you should be going to people who are certified majority of the time. If you have a pastor and they are and they do the teachings and lessons and things like that, and you have faith in them, if you want to do that, that is not therapy, that is counsel. You can go there before you go to therapy to get a sense of because I'm telling you, all therapy is just somebody helping you realize and how to process all and unpack all of that shit. And even your therapist has a therapist. You know, you're like, well, everybody, Oh my gosh, people need people, and I'm telling you right now, if you gotta hold on to bitches shit, it's just stressful. I have so many secrets inside of me that sometimes it hurts to keep them inside, and I'm just like, sometimes I just want to say like, just come out the closet, bro. Sometimes I want to say, hey, I love you, but please stop calling me. Sometimes I want to say, please go actually call a motherfucking therapist because I cannot do it, okay? So you do need to go to somebody who is licensed in this. And when it comes down to licensing and stuff like that, I know we want to think that we're smart asses and we know so much about the law and stuff, but if you're not in that realm or that field, please shut the fuck up. Because it is tiring. I hate to see y'all do this shit. This is what makes me so mad with y'all. Y'all literally come out there and y'all have all these say-sos and shit, and y'all use all these words that y'all found out online. Y'all, I think y'all recently found out about the word gaslight. I've been known about the word gaslight, but I didn't forget about it. I just didn't use it. Okay, like I didn't use it. I can tell when somebody was gaslighting me, but I would never say, oh, this person is gaslighting me. When the word gaslight became popularized, people were like, gaslight is not a real word. Gaslight is a real word, bitch. It's another word for manipulation. Well, you're trying to gaslight me into no, nobody's trying to manipulate you into believing anything. You're trying to gaslight yourself into believing that that's not a real thing. That is what you're doing. And when that happens, or when people get to that point, it's hard. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Like, sometimes I sit back and I just think to myself, like, it took me a minute to get into therapy. Like, for real, it took me a minute to get into therapy. It took me a minute to get my partner to go to therapy. That's why my partner is my partner today, because we both went to therapy, okay? And we do not have a problem going back to therapy, okay? Okay, I'm telling you right now. And I know you're like, well, what do people be in therapy for so many years if therapy worked so well? Because life is constantly changing. If let's say in a couple of years I'm like, you know what, I think I'm ready to have a child or whatever, and go do the whole mother thing, because this is the place in my life I want to be. I know for a fact I personally do not want to have kids ever in my life, and I hope this is the mindset that I keep. Pray to God it is, because fuck them little kids. Fuck them kids. And not fuck them kids as in I don't like them. Fuck them kids as in they're expensive, and I already have anxiety and seasonal depression, and if I give that to if I mix seasonal depression with anxiety and possible bipolar, bitch, I will be creating a little demon seed, okay? I will be creating a little melodramatic demon seed that could never be happy, that would probably fucking unalive itself, because it'd be that sad, okay? My biological his biological father is a motherfucking schizo, okay? And if that shit is in the DNA, and that shit getting my kids, bitch, I am going to be raising menaces to society, okay? I am happy my bipolar has not kicked in, okay? I get seasonal depression at best, and anxiety. Seasonal depression and anxiety, okay? They motherfucker misdiagnosed me as bipolar, bitch. I was not bipolar. I just fucking depressed. And depression shows up differently in black women, okay? And I'm telling you right now, if you are a person of color, if you are not white, go to a therapist that looks like you. 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 I'm telling you this because the moment you go to a therapist that looks like you, I'm telling you, you will be at peace. My first 2 therapists was white. And you're like, oh my gosh. The first one literally told me that his prejudice made him want to misdiagnose me, and he did, but he took his diagnosis back. He said that he misdiagnosed me. Okay? So it says that I was bipolar somewhere on there, but I'm not bipolar. The nigga just, that man just misdiagnosed me that one time. And people look at that, and even though it's reported that I have been misdiagnosed, people look at that shit and like, we don't know. So yeah, the second one re-diagnosed me, said I was not bipolar, but I did have seasonal depression and anxiety. Bitch, if you think I want to give a child seasonal depression and anxiety, just imagine going maybe 3 to 6 months out of the year like, damn, I'm really sad. I don't know if I'm doing enough. Da 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 da. Just crying. Sometimes taking a lack in hygiene. Yes, a lack in hygiene at times. I think I got depressed one time so bad during my seasonal depression that I did not shower for about a month. I was brushing my teeth, but I was taking whole baths for about a month. Okay, baby wiping it up. Okay, I'm telling you, my PCOS was off the charts. My hormones was going on during that. Ooh, it was a terrible time. God awful, terrible time. When I say I was having the worst time of my life, like, bitch, I was in there, bitch, crying, tears, like, motherfucking tears. Is it done charging? Okay, it keeps on doing it. It says let it charge for 24 hours, but it's already done charging. Okay. Sometimes I think I have ADHD. Because, like, I can be doing something and I can be like, ooh, look at that. Like it's snowing and it's so beautiful and it's just nice and it's cold. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, like, well, when it comes down to therapy, like, you're not going to get it right the first time. You need to find somebody who looks like you. Because they know the prejudice that's already in that community, and this is why when I had the 2 white therapists, and no offense to white therapists, because sometimes white therapists work for certain people, and sometimes people get to that point in their life, but for me, I personally would suggest that y'all find somebody to look like y'all. Or if you do find you a person that's white, make sure they're not practicing a prejudice or certain prejudice that are in the psychological community, because some therapists, because most therapy was based in racism and shit like that. And some people still practice that shit to this day. That's why people get misdiagnosed. And when they get misdiagnosed, then they get on medication and certain shit fucks up. And then by the time they get off the medication, they realize it was a misdiagnosis and everybody's apologizing and there's paperwork that needs to be done. Then it needs to go in the system. Then you have to make sure it's followed up with, and then they have to test you. Then next thing you know, it's just a lot of stuff that goes behind a misdiagnosis. And it is easier to not get misdiagnosed if you have somebody that looks like you and does not practice a prejudice against you. Because 9 out of 10 you can feel that somebody's practicing a prejudice against you, and they'll gaslight you, and they'll tell you like, no, I'm not practicing a prejudice, it's just how I personally grew up on. Okay, you grew up on that, but why do you believe it and why do you hold on to it? They were like, man, I just grew up and I just can't break tradition. So you mean to tell me you grew up on something? Nah, man, I'll never do that shit again in my life. So it's choices that we're making. Nah, man, it's just the way I grew up. Gaslighting you into believing that they don't have a prejudice against you. My therapist told me he had a prejudice against me, literally, and that shit hurt my feelings because I was like, I knew it, and when I was telling people, motherfuckers didn't believe me. The motherfucker literally wrote in his report that he had a prejudice. I guess he didn't. Because he was like, because he literally like snapped one day. He was like, I'm really tired of dealing with fucking niggas. I really want to work with white people. And a nigga moved to become a specialist to work with white people. So now if you're looking at this, I'm glad you are working with your demographic now. But you didn't have to do me like that. I can laugh at it now because I'm over that shit. And then to me it was funny. It's funny now. It's funny haha now, but it wasn't funny back then. That shit hurt your chest. Hit you in the hood. I'm sorry. It's funny to me, okay? But, like, I think some people think, like, you're gonna go to therapy, you're gonna be, I think some people think, like, you're gonna go to therapy and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm so healed. You're gonna be mad as fuck at your therapist for calling you out on your shit. And a lot of y'all are not gonna like therapy if you hate accountability. Because that's all therapy is. Therapy is taking you to a place where you take accountability for your actions. So like, even if you're in a situation that you can't get out of like right away, you still are accountable for your own actions. I remember I was trying to break up with this dude, but I couldn't just break up with him because he was crazy, right? And I was telling my therapist about this, and she was like, well, you can always control your responses. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean I can always control my responses? And my therapist literally looked at me and said, why do you have to respond to him if you know it's him? Because he was like, because you want to have autonomy over somebody else, and when he wants to have autonomy over you. He was like, the only reason why your relationship worked with him previously before is because he had autonomy over you, but once you wanted autonomy over self and you wanted autonomy over him, he wasn't giving autonomy up. And because you're both stubborn, now you're going back and forth. And the easier way to fix this would be to do X, Y, and Z, which you have already done, but you have to continue to do this. And even though this process is tiring and taxing, it is not as tiring or as taxing as going back and forth with him. And because you want autonomy and you want control so bad, this is what you're doing. And I was like, I wanted to score with that nigga so bad. I wanted to score with my therapist so bad. Y'all don't understand, but I was just going. I was like. And he was like, do you want to continue the conversation now? Or do you want to stop, or do you need a minute? I was like, I need a minute to process this. He was like, yep. And I was like, he was like, you want to hang up, don't you? I was like, yep. He was like, yeah, because you're uncomfortable. And he was like, you're not comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. He's like, he was like, if you hang up, I'm going to drop you as a client. And I was like, that's not fair. He was like, it actually is fair because he's like, I specialize in this. I told you that already. And he was like, you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable and hearing hard truths. Because the truth of the matter is, you don't have to let that nigga stress you the fuck out. And I was like, you right, I don't have to let that nigga stress me the fuck out. And he was like, yeah. And we were like literally having, like, I know you're like, oh, he's saying all this other stuff. I'm not telling you the part that I was saying, okay? Because that's my business. It's my business. That is my business where I said back to my therapist. But basically, my therapist will repeat exactly what I said back. Well, it was a game that we would play in certain scenarios, not all scenarios, because certain things go for, like, this is why you need to go to therapy, because if I say something and it doesn't, and you do it and it doesn't fit the scenario, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm going to therapy, but that wasn't for that. But until you go to therapy and you build a relationship with your therapist, they're going to tell you what works and what doesn't work. i.e., what's something that works or doesn't work. As somebody who has anxiety, I can have a tendency to overthink, right? And because I go and I plan down to like the nittiest details, and I can be such a perfectionist sometimes I get in my own way. So my therapist will be like, why do you feel that somebody is trying your gangster? And I was like, I feel like people try my gangster because I don't say shit. And he was like, are you not saying shit, or are you just not being in a compromising position? And then I was like, I don't want to compromise. And he said, why don't you say that you want to compromise? I said, because I'm afraid that if I don't really like these people and da 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 woo woo. So example. I'm gonna give y'all a more clear example. I remember one day I was sitting in therapy and we were talking about friendships and how I feel like it's hard for me to maintain female friendships. And he said, my therapist was sitting there and said, why do you feel like it's hard for you to maintain female friendships? I said, because I said for me, myself, and I'm not one of those people who like to be around a lot of people, because growing up, I've had like a bunch of people around me and I kind of like my own space. I kind of like my own thing. And based on my personality test, I've learned that I am ambivalent, which means I'm an introverted extrovert, meaning that I really enjoy alone time. But it doesn't mean that I cannot enjoy other people. So it means I can be the life of the party, or and I balance like introversion and extrovertness, right? Because that's my personality type, i.e. personality tests, birth charts, and stuff like that. These are all things that you can kind of get into. If you want a spiritual therapist, you can go get you a spiritual therapist, okay? And they read your birth chart, they understand that shit in depth and in detail. My spiritualist, that's what I call her, my spiritual therapist, She is certified. She's been all of that shit. Okay, so I go to her for all my shit. She knows. I go to her like clockwork, and I pay that bitch. Yeah. Nothing in life is free. I'm sorry. But yeah, like, you literally have to we were sitting there, we were talking about that, right? And the conversation kind of went, and he was pointing out things in myself, and he was like, the problem is you cross your own boundaries. And that was like the end all be all. I cross my own boundaries, or I don't have any boundaries, and I don't never reinforce them. So I can have boundaries, but it seems like I don't have boundaries because I never reinforce them and I never stand on them. Even after time has passed, because I'll like start to slack off, and the same boundaries of things that weren't okay now become okay. And now it's not just one brick. Now they just break down a whole damn wall. You're like, hey. But you can't really, but you're mad. You're not mad at them. You're mad at yourself for not establishing those boundaries and having expectations of how to move forward. And he was like, and then we got to another conversation. The conversation leaded to, and that was the end of our session. He gave me some homework. And he was like, you need to figure out what is your standard for yourself and others around you, for you to be comfortable. And when you're not comfortable, you need to find coping mechanisms and how to deal with people, because you're going to have to deal with people you don't like. You're going to have to deal with these things. But you should also have boundaries while still being this. And then there was a whole bunch of other things. And then the next therapy session, we really got into it, and we dug deep, and we learned, and he showed me ways to practice my standards for myself and what I expect from others. Like, I don't expect you to be just like me and stuff like that. He gave me like an extremely realistic list, because I ain't gonna hold you. He said my list was superficial. I was like, they gotta be pretty, they gotta be this. He was like, you're so fucking superficial at times. My therapist said, when I said my therapist used to eat me up. My therapist said, you're so superficial at times. I said, not this man calling me superficial. Yeah, this man said, he just said you can be so superficial at times. And I was just like, not him calling me superficial, like that shit genuinely hurt my feelings. He was like, you're looking at surface level shit. So he was like, so my therapist, we pointed out, he was like, I was like, not me being this, this, that, and the third. He was like, yeah, you can be so shallow at times. He was like, you're not shallow often, but you can be shallow at times, and then with the most irresponsible things to be shallow about. Like, you should be shallow about your taste palette at times, okay? Your taste palette don't have to be so, it has to go so deep in flavor. Sometimes a little bit of this to do it. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, he was like, that is something you should be shallow about. But your friendships, like, oh, they gotta be pretty. They gotta like the same shit. He was like, they ain't gotta be pretty. They ain't gotta look a certain type of way. They have to have the same moral values as you for you to have a successful friendship. And he was like, the things that I took off that were superficial is what's getting you into these friendships, and you're realizing that after years, or after like the mask finally dropped, that they're not the people that you want to be around. He was like, you're a sensitive soul. And he's like, that's okay. Can't change that. And he was like, don't hate yourself for being a sensitive soul either. I was like, He was like, yeah, because people call you a crybaby and shit like that. But he was like, most niggas ain't even in therapy. Most people don't even have emotional intelligence. So you're comparing yourself to the majority who's told you that crying is bad, but these motherfuckers need to cry they damn self. He was like, a tear ain't never hurt nobody. And I was just like, you right. And like, these are the things that we actually talk about in therapy. And it's not always gonna be, oh my gosh, you're so shallow. Sometimes it might be, you're okay this week. Why are you here? Call me when you really have a crisis. Cause I ain't gonna hold you. It was a point in my time I was like, he was like, why are you calling me? He was like, why are you requesting emergency meeting? He was like, you know what to do. He was like, come on now. Dependency. We're not doing that. Like, we're not doing that codependent. He was like, don't need to drop you. Oh my gosh, it was awful. But like, when you get to therapy, like, the only expectation you should have is to work on yourself and be kind to yourself while you're going there. Because it wasn't until I went to therapy that I was able to accept a lot of things, like my bisexualness, that I'm a softie, that I genuinely enjoy having sex, that I'm not the victim that everybody wants me to be, that I can be a perfectionist at times. I've learned coping skills on how to be less of a perfectionist. Healing, loving myself, being kind. Like, it's a lot of stuff that you learn in therapy that you may not be able to see. And people like, oh, that's common sense. That's common sense. That's common sense. Everything's not common sense. Cause right now, if I would tell, like, for me, like, everything is not common sense. I remember my first time seeing snow, I was like, ooh, I got the boots, I got all this shit right here, all this snow here. I done looked online what they said to do, da-da-da-da. This should be common sense, boy. This should be easy. First winter out here, bitch. Whoo! My ass was handed to me, served on a platter. Bitch, I was freezing the whole entire fucking winter. Or half the fucking winter, okay? I literally was like, this winter is whooping my ass. People was like, why would you even buy that? They was like, you need this material, this, that, and the third. I literally had to be coached on how to survive a fucking mild winter. And they were like, oh yeah, man, we didn't even touch negative degrees this year. Bitch, this year it touched negative, and I was prepared for that, bitch. Like, it was the fucking plague, bitch. I said, not again. I learned everything I could learn plus more, bitch. I came back this year again. And guess what? This year I didn't need it, but bitch, next year I might need to go back there again. And I know you're like, oh, but why do people stop going to therapy and go back to therapy? Because sometimes your therapist will tell you that you need to go out and practice all the shit that you do. I got so good at therapy. Well, I don't want to say I got so good at therapy, but I went to enough sessions in therapy that my therapist said that I was fine. Okay? I was fine and I should go out there and practice it. My therapist said that right now, at this point in my life, unless there is a major change and not some minor change that I'm going to blow up and make it big just so I can come here and be a codependent fuck, and he wasn't gonna deal with me because he don't deal with codependents, that I no longer needed his specialty in therapy. And that I should not try to go out there and make problems so that I can go find somebody to go to therapy. Therapy is to help you figure things out about yourself and go through it. So yeah, at one point in your life, you might not go. At one point, you may go do some shit. Now, after you've learned to cope, you might be like, you know what? I need to go to therapy again because I need to figure out it is. Some people continue to go to therapy because their position doesn't stop. A lot of people have mental illnesses that they will never tell you. I know so many people who are undercover bipolars and schizos, and y'all wouldn't even think it because they present to the world as sane and they don't say what they really think. I know some real schizophrenics, bitch. I know some real bipolar people. I know some real depressed ass motherfuckers. I know people who are really depressed and are like, oh my gosh, I'm so depressed, my cappuccino machine broke. Or oh my gosh, I'm so depressed, I got an F. Like, depressed to like, damn, I really don't think I'm gonna make it to tomorrow depressed. Or so depressed that, damn, I haven't washed my hair in months. Damn, I haven't washed my ass in weeks. Damn, I haven't been able to brush my teeth or get out of bed in days. Damn, I don't feel like eating. Depressed. And people will say, oh, I'm so depressed. Stop. People who are genuinely depressed and get seasonal depression or chronic depression, or because it's different types of depressions. The same way there's different types of schizos, there's different types of autistic people, there's different type of and I'm telling you right now, even if you go into the DSM-5 and read that bitch up and down, if you don't get a therapist, you will never work through that shit, because all you will know is just facts and terms. You can know a bunch of words, but if you don't know how to put them together and make a great story, it will never work. I know some great wordsmiths right now who know a million. I know a motherfuckers who know a bunch of motherfucking words that's bigger than obtuse and obscene and shit like that. Petrified, shit like that, and they can't even put that shit in a sentence to make a story pop. They paragraph or they whole story just sound clunky and exponentials. Well, I think I said that last time, but it just sounds clunky and it just don't make no sense. Like the whole thing is just like ugh. So yeah, you can do all of that shit, and I'm telling you, you gonna be there for some years, bitch. And it changes. What might have been acceptable back then might not be acceptable now. People look at certain theories in psychology and look back and say, "Ooh, that was flawed as fuck." This is why the generation is like this. This is why this is like this. And I'm like, but what if that's not it? Life has zero certainties. And I'm telling you right now, some therapists will let you try them out before you actually be with them. Okay? They will tell you what they can do. They will tell you what they won't do. And if you are getting mad at them for being specialists and saying what they will and what they won't do, would you rather them rob you, take your money, and then say, well, my bad, I forgot to tell you I didn't specialize in this, and then now you're worse off than when you were already for? Or would you rather them just say, hey, no, I don't really work with this right here, but I can refer you to somebody else, or if I know somebody who can, I will give you a call, I will give you an update, and I will have my team reach out to you or do X, Y, and Z for you. And before you get upset and you say, oh man, but therapy. If you don't have no intent of going to therapy, please shut the fuck up. This conversation is not for you. And if you've never been to therapy and it never worked for you, or if you've ever crossed boundaries in therapy and you've got mad because people have rejected you because you don't have any boundaries and self-respect or respect. And what I mean by that is, because I know a lot of y'all are like, oh, people don't have self-respect because they dress like this. No, people have self-respect. I know some of the most self-respecting bitches out there in the streets who dress like hoochies and all that other shit, curse, spit, and all that other shit. And y'all be like, oh, well, that's not respectful. It's very much so respectful. What you're doing is not respectful. You don't respect yourself because you don't even know what you like, what you don't like, because you don't even spend enough time with yourself, because you don't even practice self-love. But then again, that's a topic that you would discover in therapy if you believed in it and if you actually went. And like I said, they have specialists. They have spiritual bitches who do therapy. They have all this other stuff. They have psychotherapy. All this shit. Money therapy. Shit, people who are so good at money and therapy where they intersectionality is fucking amazing. But a lot of y'all won't get into it because y'all like, I just ain't gonna do it because if I do it, I'm gonna do it like this, and everybody go, fuck what everybody gonna say. I went to therapy because I was like, shit, I'm not fucking happy. I done tried everything. I done had counsel that ain't work. I done had multiple shit that ain't work. I'm genuinely trying. It's not working out. And after being forced to go to therapy and hating it at first, so I was like, man, I'm good. I don't need to be here. Fuck, I gotta be here for? Huh? Motherfucker prejudice. Got me another bitch. We actually started making progress. The bitch say, you know, Chris can't work with you. Boom, found somebody else. Boom, found somebody. I'm telling you right now, when you start making progress and putting in the work in therapy and actually doing this shit, then we can have a conversation. And if you ain't never been there, you had a terrible experience, I get it. You're not always gonna have a great one. That is the pros and cons. There's pros and cons in everything. There's pros and cons of drinking water. There's pros and cons of eating healthy. There's pros and cons of eating unhealthy. It's the pros and cons of doing whatever the fuck it is that you gonna do. So whatever it is that you gonna do before you say, well, the negative is that why would I gonna do it? No, bitch. If you out there taking an Advil, bitch, the negative is your ass can fucking pass out and die. If you take an Advil and you have a terrible allergic reaction to it, some shit might happen. If I go out there right now and then you don't take that Advil, the pro is your body's not becoming dependent on medicine to fix itself. If you go there, what is the pro? Your body's not dependent on medicine to fix itself. However, do you know natural remedies to fix that? And now the cons is, now instead of taking the for your headache, now you laying down and resting and you not doing as much shit as you possibly can. Versus if you take that Advil, your body's dependent on it now. Now every single time you get ready to get a headache, now you gotta take Advil. And now it's almost like now you just pop pills. Whatever it is, it's pros and cons to end and everything, from the smallest things to the biggest things. And if you're not gonna take a risk on self to get some self-help, whether you got to go to your pastor, your whatever, somebody. Because I'm telling you, your friends cannot be your therapist. That's how you get burnt out in your friendships. That's how you become a bad friend. I've had people do it to me. I've done it to people. So therapy might not be all butterflies and cotton candy or these really deep moments. Sometimes it's okay, I've done everything I can do. It's time to let you go. You need to go to this therapist now so you can work on this part of your life. And sometimes they might refer you. And I'm telling you right now, you don't have just like you have autonomy to say yes and no in most situations. And I put in that in most situations. You have autonomy to say yes and no to therapy. And most times you do. Sometimes you don't. But most times you fucking do. Okay? Oh, shit. Because sometimes when it's just shit. Y'all ass be thinking y'all depressed your ass get into y'all backtrack yourself when they put you in the mental institutions. And don't nobody look like you. Don't nobody talk like you. They put me in a mental institution with Spanish people. And they put in the area that I was in, it was extremely prejudiced. But because I had got like a favor from like a couple of doctors and nurses, I was able to get out. And I didn't have to deal with the stuff that goes on in there when nobody's watching. Or when they turn off the cameras. When they do certain things. So I was protected in that sense, but I wasn't protected because it was like provisional. Like, so I got out. They literally tried to keep me in there because I wouldn't take medication. The medication that was given was fucking... It's a terrible experience. Y'all be thinking y'all be crazy. Y'all be like, I'm depressed. I want to end it all. I want to end it all. And the whole time you're just running from accountability. Because when I back-ratted myself, sitting in that place really let me know I needed to go to therapy. Because I knew that something was wrong with me. The bitches who was faking shit, and I'm not trying to cry, but the bitches who was faking shit and mental illnesses, ooh, boy, them bitches was playing crazy till they couldn't play crazy no more. It was like, the medicine is not for me, it's making me go crazy, I just lied to get in here. That's the shit they was saying, right? But bitches who really needed, who was at the fucking table sitting with fucking real life therapists, right? People who had been qualified and all this other stuff, and they was giving us advice and teaching us coping mechanisms for us to go out there, and we had to sign so much shit, and it's so much stuff goes behind y'all. So when y'all sit there and y'all come on the internet and y'all fake, and not even just on the internet but in real life, y'all be like, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm so sad. No, bitch, use the right words. You're sad. You're not depressed. I could just kill myself right now. Some of that shit's not fucking funny. It's not. Because when it's all said and done, when the shit is real and it's not a game anymore, and people are looking at you and testing you out and doing all these other stuff, and you're going into a place where you don't know where anything's at or how things are going to pan out, or if you're going to get Baker acted, or if you do get Baker acted, well, how are you going to survive? That's scary. So before you get to the point where you are mentally unstable and they can put you in a mental institution, and because you volunteered yourself there, or you got that's why I say most of the time you have a choice, because somebody sent you there, you literally have to sit there and question yourself and be like, should I just go to therapy now? Or do I go my whole entire life being a sad fuck and depressed and don't know why? Or not even depressed, but maybe find out like, well, damn, maybe I might have ADHD. Maybe this is why I act the way I act. And instead of like just saying, well, I'm just like this, a lot of us are not just like this. And whether you believe in therapy from the doctor, therapy from your pastor, which I would not advise unless that motherfucker has an actual certification for it, therapy from your spiritualist, which I would not advise unless they've actually done everything that they're supposed to do, and you, my spiritual bitches know, like, unless like, go to that bitch and go see what's up with you. You don't want to wait your whole entire life feeling like something's wrong on the inside of you and feeling like, damn, I'm not happy, or damn, I just can't seem to get over this hump. Like, damn, just go try it out. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Cool. I know you're like, oh man, the bitch told me to go get a diary, a journal. Okay, bitch. Okay, so what? Because when I hear people complain about, therapy costs so much money, they have free therapy services. If you get a job that has health insurance, you can go take that shit and you can go get a voucher. And that voucher may give you like $40 a session. And guess what? Well, it should be free. Nothing's free in life. I'm sorry, honey. And the shit that is free, you got to either wait for it or it's not going to be top tier. If you go pay for your own specialist, you can actually dig deep into the shit that's really genuinely hurting you. I went to therapy because I needed it. I told my partner, who's my partner now, to go to therapy years ago. My partner was in therapy for about, I think about 2 years before he stopped going. Because something happened with his therapist and she couldn't do it no more. And he basically said that whenever he get ready to go back, he'll go back. My partner was a shitty friend and a whole bunch of other stuff to me. And he felt like, okay, well, I'm just like this. After going to therapy, he realized he's not just like this. He's learned his personality type. He's learned a lot about himself. He's learned a lot of things. He's finally feeling confident. And this is a man, not no teenager, like, think 30, bitch. And this happened at 28. 28, 27, whatever. Whatever year it was, I told the nigga to go to therapy. And to be completely honest, for a big chunk of my partner's life, he didn't feel like he was that dude. And he told me that one day. I was like, I said, you're not ugly. I said, when I said that, I just didn't like men. And at the time, I was hurt and I was doing all this other stuff. But, therapy showed me that. He was like, yeah. And he was like, thank you for telling me to go to therapy, babe. Thank you. That, like, he literally thanks me for it. And I know we're like, oh, man, but da-da-da-da. That's why I say go find a therapist that fucking looks like you. Because they going to understand you. I'm telling you. Most of your therapists probably already had to go to therapy or probably go to their therapist now was like, damn, dog, I didn't even want to go to this bitch. And they be like, all right, whatever. And they still do their job because they care. And if a motherfucker fuck up, don't let one bad experience turn you off from therapy. Sometimes, even if you get some cam folks, people don't look like you, sometimes you got to date around. It's like the dating world and shit's not supposed to be easy. Life is not easy. It's not a beach. It's a game for sure. You got to learn how to play the bitch. But it's not going to always be peaches and cream. And it's not always going to be tough either. I'm telling you, a therapist will help you sort through all of that shit. And if you like, but therapist, you the main bitch that need to be in therapy. The main motherfuckers, if you rebutting against therapy, well, if it works, your ass need to be in therapy. You're rebutting so fucking hard because something in you was, I don't want to let it go. Because I'm telling you, once a therapist hit one of them little soft spots in your heart, pack it up. Done for. Donezo. I'm telling you, my therapist touched me one day, and I'm talking about in my heart. And I almost said I ain't coming back to this bitch a day again in my motherfucking life. It took 2 weeks and I was right back, and I was like, I said I just needed to calm down because I ain't gonna hold you. You really hit some shit. Because she hit one of my core values, and it's still one of my core values. I just look at it totally different now, and I'm just like, I was like, nobody want to see us together, but it don't matter, no, cause I got you and you got me. Whatever Akon was saying in that shit, or whoever was saying, nobody want to see us together, whatever. Yeah, bitch, I didn't want to see me motherfucking happy, okay? And I was going through a depressive episode, and she said, it's okay. I understand where you're coming from, because as someone with seasonal depression, I could see how this can seem and feel like this, but when I said what I said, this is what I meant. I went back to an ex. It took me 2 weeks. I was like, I just ain't doing no more. And she was like, I knew you'd come back. She ain't say it up front. You know what I'm saying? And it was a joke, and it was appropriate. So before you say, oh, this one, no, I'm telling you right now, therapy helped me in a lot of ways. I now know who I am. I know now what I want to do. It helps me not. It helps me not and I actually enjoy seeing my progress, because I remember when I first started therapy, they told me, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done. I remember when I first started therapy, one of the things they said that I had that was very like scary to see in women, especially black women, was an addictive personality and low self-esteem and other shit. I was like, I'm the most confident motherfucker here. Da 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 da. She said, and she would ask questions. She was like, so do you wear your natural hair? Because I made a comment. I made a comment, and she said, why do you refer to this as this? And boy, when she hit it and she started drilling, I said, oh, it's so much self-hate up in me, boy. I hated myself, because I was like, I can't believe I talk to myself this way. I can't believe I do this. I can't believe I do that. And she said, now that it's open, let's talk about it. And I was like, I don't want to talk about this shit, because I'm not this. She said, you're not, but these are the actions that you're taking. And she said, the path you're going is leading to this way, and this is that and the third. And she said, if you want to change your path, she said, let's start working on mine. She was like, what? She was like, your first thought when you hear. And I was like, and she said, where does that thought come from? And then we went down a whole rabbit hole. Now you're like, oh, she's probably just asking why, where, this. No. And it was not always why and where. It was some shit I can't say on camera, but it actually gets you to thinking. You're like, now, if you were to look at my like latest shit, I don't have the possibility, or I'm not on the path of addictive behaviors. Like, literally, I recently told, like, my partner, I was like, babe, I think I'm going to cut back on smoking. And he was like, why? And I was just like, I don't know, I just feel like I just want to, you know? I just feel like, you know, fuck it, you know? Like, I'm not finna stop smoking altogether, you know what I'm saying? But I just want to, like, kind of cut back and, like, kind of do da-da-da. He was like, okay, cool. And he, like, loved the message, and he started supporting me and shit. And it made me think, like, bitch, this was a whole level of vulnerability for me. Cause I remember, like, I tell people this. I tell people, like, oh, I hate having to explain myself. I hate having to do this. I hate having to do that. And I genuinely dislike doing it, like, with a whole entire passion. Like, people often, like, say shit like, oh, like, like, I genuinely hated explaining myself with a passion, because I'm like, oh, you're doing this because you don't believe that. And then after going to therapy, I realized that the only reason why I did that was for some other reasons, and that I should not transfer that over. And after some several practices and tries, because it takes that, I was like, okay. I was like, okay. And then I was like, all right, we're here. And then after getting to the conclusion and after going, because if you fuck up a therapy exercise, well, you will feel like shit. My therapist never made me feel that way, though. But I still felt that way. But still made me feel that way. That's how I realized I was a hard ass on myself. Like, I was like, bitch, you just learned this concept, like, yesterday. Like, let's be for real. That's why, like, now I can laugh at shit. And I can be like, oh, my God. I can say therapy has helped me a lot, because life is not gonna be fair. Life is not gonna play fair. Like, shit's gonna happen, okay? And you have to learn how to deal, cope, and move the fuck around. And if you just so stuck on, damn, I can't move past this really hurts my feelings, and you so emotionally stunted and blocked or whatever it is that's got you in a fucking tussy and a tussle, if you can't, baby, if you can't get out of that, you're gonna be miserable. I really, like, I don't know what to say. Like, you're gonna be miserable. You're not gonna be happy, and the whole experience is gonna be stressful and exhausting. And you'll be like, damn, I really feel like I'm really putting my pussy in this shit, and it's not giving what it's supposed to give. And it's because you need to figure out what's wrong with you. And sometimes you gotta date around a couple of therapists to get around. Like, think of therapy like a dating cesspool. You're gonna have some really great therapists, you're gonna have some really shitty therapists, you're gonna have some therapists that's gonna try to push medicine, have some therapists that's not gonna try to push medicine. This is why why you try them out. You say, hey, some therapists have a consultation before you even get with them. And during the consultation, they ask you questions like, what are you looking for? Like, why are you coming to therapy? What is it that you need? Like, some therapists only work with you if you want to come to them. So, like, some therapists, like, they'll specialize and they'll take themselves out of the public, because in the public there's like different room from private practices and public practice. But whatever, they'll take their stuff from out like the public, or they'll like go underneath the private company or some shit like that, or they'll like self-individualize through therapy, shit like that, whatever, right? Because they can do that. And when they do that, they set up like their own space. So when they do consultations with you, because they want to make sure that you're right for them. Because, i.e., if I never wanted to go to therapy and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so against therapy, right? Because when I first went to therapy, they had to put me in the public, right? I.e., that's why my first one went private and went to his own thing, right? And the second one, she went private too. Like, now I only work with private and specialists in certain areas versus saying, oh, I'm going to work with all therapists or every single therapist, because I don't need an abandonment coach therapist, because I don't have abandonment ass issues anymore. Like, at one point in time, I needed that shit heavily. I needed a therapist that was going to be like, why are you running away from this? Why are you running away from that? And for me, myself, and I needed a therapist. And at one point in time, I needed a therapist that was going to tell me that the shit I was going through is what you call it. And I had to tell nothing. And I had a therapist, and they're going to always retest you. I don't want to say they're always going to retest you, but I always request to get retested for like anything. So like now when I see like seasonal depression, I'm like, okay, cool. When I see anxiety, I'm like, okay, cool. Okay. And I ain't talking about like, oh, everybody has anxiety. No, bitch, like really bad anxiety. I have a medical marijuana card, bitches. Okay. For my anxiety. That's how bad my anxiety got, okay? And the crazy part is, I know you're like, how did you get that? No, they do not just give it to you. They put me on medication. The medication didn't work. Trial, error. Like, it was just fucking on my body. And so I was like, can I just have like a natural alternative, please? Because I can't do this shit no more. And that's like, I'm a medical marijuana card, bitch. Eat it. And I don't even use it. I don't even use it when I should be using it. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, I genuinely just don't. Like, but therapy has genuinely helped me become a better person. And not just a better person, but a better friend, a better lover, a better daughter. If I ever decide to have little crotch food, it's probably gonna make me become a better mother. I know for a fact I need to see a therapist on one about kids, okay? One about kids, because I want to make sure that, well, not make sure that I'm not ODing, because I know that I'm not ODing, but I want to make sure that I'm giving myself the best options when it comes down to it, because I really genuinely don't want any crotch fruit, but I genuinely think that comes from a healthy place. But I also want to challenge it, and if my stance is still the same, then I'm going to stick on it. Like, sometimes, like, once you get into it, and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to therapy. I'm not addicted to therapy. Like, you can become addicted to therapy, but I kind of like the fact that I haven't become addicted to therapy. But like sometimes when you need to question and challenge something, sometimes the thing that you have to question and challenges are your own thoughts and beliefs. And sometimes you have to get into a therapist that looks like you or doesn't look like you, and you should, but is on the thing that you want to work on. Because at first, for a long time, I used to have like really bad. Anyways, I'm telling y'all my business. But either way it goes, go to therapy. It's just go to fucking therapy.